All right, welcome back everyone. Today is going to be our first lesson in lighting. So we're going to start with how we're going to be able to set our camera and understand lighting when it comes to photography. So the first word is white balance. You have to think about photography as always being, your desire is to always find and tune everything in your picture so that all the whites actually end up being white. So in this image here, white balance is defined as the camera setting that adjusts for lighting in order to make sure that your white objects appear white in the photographs. So as you can see here, this is a white wall, but it appears to have an orangish hue to it. And this one has a tan, and this one has more of a white wall. So you have to adjust your camera to make sure that you are getting the proper white balance and that it doesn't have the wrong kind of hue or cast. So different types of light. The first one is a natural light. A natural light is a source from light that comes from the sun, usually by windows, through skylights, or from being outside. In my classroom, for the most of the part, I keep my fluorescent lights off all the time, and I just use the natural light from the window. So even if it's coming from the window, it is considered a natural light. On the other hand, there's something called artificial light. Artificial light is light produced by manufactured elements. So you're looking at tungsten light, you're looking at LED lights or anything like that that is made from manufactured elements. It could be your strobe lights as well. So the first type of light we're going to study is called incandescent or tungsten. They both mean the same thing, and you'll see them used interchangeably. That's why I wanted to introduce both words to you. So incandescent or a tungsten light is light produced by a piece of metal, usually tungsten, until it glows. It gives off really warm tones. And I made this presentation a few years ago where it's like, it's commonly found in houses. This is the warm light that you commonly do find in houses. However, in the past several years, a lot of households have been changing to LED lights or fluorescent lights. But that warm light with the orangish glow that you have typically seen in some of your households is going to be typically your tungsten light. Another type of light is called fluorescent. And these are the ones you find in most of your institutions. So you would see this in hospitals. You would see it in business buildings. You would see it in school settings. It's a light that produces a cool kind of blue-green appearance to it. So you're going to have to adjust your camera according to that. The next one is LED light. This one, actually the lights I'm using right now to illuminate myself is LED lights. So this is a new type of light, and they're very efficient. They use a lot less energy as incandescent bulbs, and so you're going to be seeing this a lot. The balance of this is going to be different than what you would see for incandescent or fluorescent. And then there's flash photography. Flash photography is the use of a strobe, and the strobe could be attached at the top of your camera like this, or it could be something that you hand hold separately, or it could be attached to some umbrellas, kind of like what you get with your school pictures. Typically, a strobe light creates a very direct light, and it can be kind of harsh. And so any kind of light that you have coming straight from your camera to your subject is going to create kind of a picture similar to this, where there's going to be some harsh direct light. So then this brings us to diffused light. Diffused light is the type of light that is has very weak shadows. It could be diffused light could be diffused through the clouds in the sky. So I'm looking out today. Today's an overcast day, so I don't see any harsh shadows on the ground. So a lot of the sun has been diffused through the clouds. Another way you can diffuse is through something like this. You can see this. This is somewhat translucent. It's not transparent. It's not opaque, but there actually light can get through to this. Okay, so diffused light, a lot of photographers maybe will use that. I'm going to set up this light right here. I'm going to turn this on. So you can see I've got this light shining on me. If I want to diffuse this light, all I do is add this diffuser, and you can see it loosens up those shadows on my face. Look at the difference. Okay, so I'm diffusing the light. Next up is direct light. Direct light is kind of a little bit of opposite of a diffused light. Direct light means there's nothing in between the light source and the object that it's striking. So in this case, it's sunlight striking against these statues, creating a very harsh shadow. So it's directly from the source to the subject. So in this case, if I were to plug this in, you can see I'm creating is a direct to my face, and it's creating more harsh shadows on the opposite side of my face. That is called direct light. Next is bounce light. So a lot of photographers don't like to use or can't use diffused light because of their setup that they have. They don't have any diffusers. So they could use something called a bounce light. A bounce light, it does not travel directly to the source anymore. It's reflected off of another source, and then it hits the subject matter. So let's think of a situation where I could do that here. Bounce. So I have this white board right here, and this can act like a reflector of some sort, and I can bounce this light. Well, let's see here. I'm going to plug this in, okay? And this light is facing me right now, right? So that's direct light. Let's say I turn this around, so it's facing away from me right now. Let's see if you can see that right now. It's facing away from me, but I'm going to bounce the light back onto me. So check this out. So now you can see I have got light on my body, even though the direct light is facing away from me. It is now, and it's hard for you to see, but let me see if I can get this. You can see it is now being bounced off of here and illuminating my face. Do you see that? So I can turn it in any direction. That is called a bounce light. So a reason you might use a bounce light is you could use a bounce light if you want to fill in shadows on the opposite side of somebody's face. So let's look over here in this situation. I'm using direct light on my face, but I want to bounce and fill some of this darkness here. So I hold this up, and it's going to bounce. You can see that right now. This light is both illuminating this side of my face, and it's also illuminating this bounce light. Therefore, it's filling in those shadows on the dark side of my face. The dark side of my face. Whoa, oh, oh, oh. Now let's remove this and see what it looks like. Whoa, that got dark. Whoa, nice bounce. Dark. Bounce. Dark. Bounce. Next word is a reflector. So a reflector is actually just what it is. A reflector is it reflects light onto a subject. So actually, this kind of light right here is using this dome kind of reflector to reflect all the light concentrated inside. You could use, this could reflect light, right? This board. I have a something similar to this that I keep in my car that reflects light off the windshield of my car. And it's only like $7 to $8 to buy it. And I keep it in my camera bag. And anytime I need to reflect light for any kind of reason, I can use that from my car. These usually cost a lot of money if you buy them from the photography store, but if you get them from a local auto store, then you're going to be able to spend a lot less money. Sometimes they are gold, sometimes they're silver, sometimes they're white. It depends on what kind of light you want to reflect back onto the person or onto the subject. So you might want gold reflector if you want to have the person glowing a little bit more with the yellows and warm colors, or you might choose something more silver if you want it to be cooler. Another way that some photographers use a reflector is to illuminate even like shadows underneath right here. So you can see that it can illuminate underneath my chin too. Or if the sun is coming from above like this, and you want to reflect and get more light onto the face, you can throw a reflector on the ground in front of somebody. There's a lot of different ways you could use the reflector in that situation. The last vocabulary word is one of my favorite photographers. His name is Gordon Parks. He's best remembered for his iconic photos of the poor Americans during the 1940s. He was a part of the federal government project where he would take pictures for the government. He also worked for Life magazine. He was a director as well, a poet and composer. I found this great resource on the National Gallery of Art page, and I've put this into Google Classroom for you. And here's a portrait of him. This is a self-portrait. I think he was 28 years old. He first got his camera when he was only 25 years old, I believe. But I really like his work because he sometimes does use a strobe or a flash on his camera. You can see here. And sometimes he uses the natural lighting and sometimes he uses window lighting. A lot of his work is done in black and white photography. He did a lot of work on the south side of Chicago as well. And here's a really good example of the use of direct light and reasons you might want to use it, creating a great shadow that starts to become its own subject as well. It's not necessarily always the most flattering to use direct light. Sometimes diffused light ends up looking better, but in this, this became part of the subject. So he photographed famous people, as well as this is the stuff he did for the federal authority, and photographing the homes and lives of people. And you can see in some of these situations, you can really tell that he used his flash to illuminate. And in here, I love this picture because it looks like he used a light from the other room. It looks like it's on the ground. See how low that shadow is right there? That's a beautiful use of light. So I would love for you to explore his work further, to see his use of light and reflection in his work. So those are the vocabulary words. Next up, we're going to be learning how to put it to use.